Do you want me to explain the show? Because you've got footage from the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So should I start with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tom and I... Yeah, we good?
No.
Okay.
No, we're good.
No, we're good. We saw their work in the degree show and really liked it, so I asked them to essentially come and do a residency project exhibition here. And when we saw the show, we got like quite a strong reading of it as being almost like a physical manifestation of an online space. That's something that we've done a lot of research and a lot of projects on previously at the gallery. And at the moment we're in a curatorial kind of theme of built versus natural. So the whole point of them kind of making a tangible, you know, a space which is looking at patterns and textures, but in quite a kind of sculptural sense and quite a 3D sense, was quite interesting for the theme, but also because of this like relation. For example, the title Prosthetic Limbs for the Able Bodied, it kind of really nods towards this idea of technology as this extension of the body. So it's something that's virtual, but they're making a physical installation, and we see that as kind of looking at the fact that we're still accessing these things through our hands, and they're still kind of, we have a relationship to the virtual which is really corporal still, you know. So it just seemed to go really well with what we were doing at the gallery. And then when they came here and they were kind of working in the space and we were talking to them about it, there was this whole other dimension of their work which they were talking about. I think you can see, if you look at things like the marbling and the sand and stuff like that, that they are taking a look at the exotic and looking at the exotic with the understanding of, you know, us in the West having a familiarity with the exotic and these kind of tropes or motifs of what is exotic, but it's this really familiar thing, and it's something that's often in interiors, and it's kind of very decorative, but not necessarily kind of based on anything real. And so they were taking these kind of signs and signifiers of the exotic and abstracting them and making them these abstract forms and putting them together into a constellation of components. So they've taken the familiar and made it unfamiliar in the setup of all these things together. And so I think that's another reason why all the components in the show will move around over time. And that's why we don't know when the show's going to end, because it's essentially, you know, just kind of modular components that can be rearranged and reformatted to recreate the installation, which again for me kind of reverts back to this kind of the ephemeral of the virtual space. And the video that's actually in the show is...
sorry, can we stop for a sec? Okay, so the video.
Yeah, the video which is in, the video which is in the show, a video of their process. And again, it's the everyday, it's the process of them making the installation and the parts of the installation, but like with some of the, you know, components of the installation, they've abstracted it, so it's a visual thing, it's an aesthetic thing, and it's kind of based on these shapes and, you know, like moving across each other, but it's actually from the process. It is documentation, and they've changed that. So like they've taken the familiar from stuff like marbling or sand, and they've kind of changed it to be something that's slightly uncanny or unfamiliar. And I really like the video also for that sense, because it is almost referencing the way that we like to work with the artists, of having them in the space, and and it being a product of being here, continuing research, having conversations. We're not really curators. We're just finding a way to work, a way to carry on our own research, a way to collaborate with other people.
So was it a kind of residency? Can you say that?
Well,
Almost.
we're unfunded, so I can't really call it a residency in the traditional sense. But because we have this big office workspace, and because the gallery is empty when we're not doing events, it's a residency in the sense that we invite them to come and share our space and work in the space. So rather than making works of art and then dropping them into a gallery to install, there's a much longer installation process which involves them having keys to be able to just work here with us.
How successful is this work?
I think it's great. I think it's a great end to... we opened at the end of February, so almost our first year. It's our second theme, curatorial theme, and it's the last show for that, and I think it's a really good end to it because it's clear, the work's clear. It's just by one artist. Well, there's two of them, but they work together. So it's not a group show, and I think it's a beautiful, strong ending exhibition, especially as next year we're not going to be doing so many exhibitions. It's more going to be event space. So it's really great to end this year's programme on such a strong exhibition, and something that really represents what we hope to do more of, in that this mutable kind of changing space, and this continued research with people that are coming in and out depending on what we're doing, and that kind of residency aspect. I think it's, we've had great feedback from it. It's really nice to have work which is self-contained, in that it kind of is strong enough to be able to exist as an object. When artwork can seem like it's not an object, and when obviously it's objects and it's in the space, but when it has the capacity to create an environment or an atmosphere or an experience for the space as a whole, that's when I think the objects are at their strongest. And I think for this show, the works that the artists have produced definitely do that.
Can you talk about the gallery and the space?
Tom Clark and I started working together at university by kind of doing research and being part of this group on the 10th floor, which was basically not part of our course, and it was doing self-organised seminars, research, reading groups. Tom and I wrote a piece together, which was in response to students protesting against the Bologna process in Europe. So we wanted to be able to continue working and continue learning, not individually, with each other, but also with, as many people, as many like-minded people as possible, I suppose. And then, so I started the space up when I graduated in October 2010, and Tom got involved, and then we also have other people. We have Jamie and Laura and Rachel that are involved, but then, like I've explained with the exhibitions, people are coming in and coming out, and getting involved in different ways. And I think it's, in a practical sense, it's how can we work and how can we survive? How can we have space post-university to be able to continue learning, writing, making work, and how can we do that as a group? Because it's always more interesting when you're working with someone else, whether it's kind of you've all got the same aim and you're working towards the same goal, or what more often happens is, there's different people, we have different interests, even between the kind of core of Arcadia Missa, we have different interests, things we each want to focus on. But to be able to share that and for them to cross over and bleed in and out of each other makes for much more ambitious projects, and, in my opinion, more interesting work and a more interesting practice, which I think is more appropriate for now. It's very hard to be a kind of, in today's culture or in today's society or in today's economy, to be a singular artist or have one skill, one practice. We all work part-time, we all write, we all make work, we all have to organise the space do the studios, and you know, doing that under a banner and under kind of a team means that we can kind of go further and do more in a short space of time.
Yeah.
It was an empty railway arch, and it's covered in this plastic, which makes it difficult. Initially difficult because you're not supposed to drill into it, but then that creates, having boundaries for what we can do in the space means that we think maybe more creatively and make things work in different ways, and it's kind of it's more unique, I suppose. But it was an empty railway arch, and we built the office and how many studios? 9 studios, and then the gallery, and separated that, which the gallery has doors, so when we don't have shows, people in the studios can use the space. And we just spent a month of building it ourselves and then renting the studios out, and that we're not for profit. The studios don't bring in money, but they cover all our costs. So essentially we have the privilege of a space to be able. We are still experimenting, you know, it's still a learning curve, so everything we're doing is every project is also an experiment for us.
How do you feel about being in Peckham? Like, what's the reason you opened the gallery here?
Because I'm from Peckham. I wanted to be where I've grown up. Wanted to be able to live and work in somewhere I've grown up and not be able to have a place in my community. But also, we already had a network here, you know, there's loads of interesting things going on, loads of interesting groups. It's a smaller than other scenes in London, so it's actually really personal, and you know everyone on a kind of one-to-one basis. It wouldn't have made any sense to have up sticks and gone somewhere where I didn't have an existing network of friends, collaborators, you know.
Give them the dance, bust the dance, give them the dance, bust the dance, give them the dance.